Welcome to Standard Intelligence, your resource for competitive constructed magic in the UK. This is episode 57 for the week beginning the 3rd of December 2018. I'm Dr. Jack Patton.
And I'm Simeon Beaver. This episode is brought to you in part thanks to our supporters on our Patreon. Many thanks to those of you who have made a contribution. It is immensely appreciated by both of us. As we have hit our first Patreon goal, we're doing a giveaway each month of a standard playable card, and it is now time for our December giveaway. So Jack, you have the list of our Patreons ready?
I do. Let me choose another random way of ordering it. Yep, that'll do. Go for it.
And we have 6 patrons, so I'm rolling a 6-sided dice. And we have a 5.
5 is Graham. Congratulations, Graham.
Congratulations, Graham.
Yep. Winging its way to you in our fabulous Royal Mail bag will be a playset of treasure maps, a card that we spoke a lot about with Helena Brake last week, actually.
Yes.
She managed to basically guess what we were up to, which was quite funny. But yeah, I think it's an excellent card. I think it's going to see a lot more play in the coming weeks and months, and I hope you enjoy them, Graham.
Anyone who has our supporter on Patreon by the 8th of January will be eligible for the January draw. The reason it's not going to be on the 1st is we're not recording on New Year's Day. So you have till the 8th of January to get into our January draw. If you'd like to be in it or would like to learn more about how to support us, please head over to patreon.com/SIcast. Unless there's anything else in our intro, Jack, let's get right into the news for this week.
Last Monday there was a banned and restricted announcement. We didn't cover it, mostly because we didn't really notice it happen. All of the formats are mostly fine, and I think both you and I, Simeon, expected no changes in the entirety of Magic. Like, there was just nothing to talk about. Everything seems to be working pretty darn well at the moment. So
everything seems okay. Touch wood and everything else do to keep it going.
So given that nothing's on fire, there seems to be no changes, and we kind of just missed it by accident.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry folks, but no changes means also no need to worry about it. Carry on as you were, playing Magic as you were.
And as people did.
Indeed.
By the weekend.
Yes.
At GP Shizuoka, which was the standard GP. Shock horror, a standard GP turning up.
Yeah.
This, unusually for a Japanese GP, didn't really see any different decks.
There's
no
analogy to Grixis Thopters that we saw a couple of seasons ago and things like that. So yeah, there was minimal innovation in this particular top 8.
I'll read out what happened, and essentially they're decks that we've heard of before. The winner was Atsushi Nakashima with a Golgari mid-range list. Runner-up, Takuya Natsume with Selesnya Tokens. Now, to be fair, Selesnya Tokens is more popular in Japan than it is elsewhere.
Okay.
And seems to do better in Japan than it does elsewhere. The 2 players who got really good results at the PT were Japanese players playing the Selesnya Tokens list. Interesting. In the semi-finals, we had a Golgari mid-range and a Jeskai control. In the quarterfinals, 2 more Golgari mid-range lists, Boros aggro, and a second Selesnya Tokens list. And both the Selesnya Tokens lists very similar to each other. The thing that all of the successful lists seem to be doing recently is running 4 Nullhide Ferox in the sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a pretty good anti-control card, I think.
It's reasonable. Like, you can still have it tagged with a counter spell, which you can't do with Carnage Tyrant, but at the same time it still seems reasonable for 4 mana as opposed to 6.
And you've made me discard, yay.
Yeah against Grixis Disinformation campaign or Nicol Bolas, Nullhide Ferox does look kind of insane.
But yeah, unfortunately nothing new to talk about from this GP.
The only things that I can see realistically as being, interesting to sort of talk about, Masayashu
Tanahashi.
Tanahashi, yes, thank you. I was like, Let me get to the end of that word before I try and say it all. Mana base is interesting. We've got a detection tower and a Golgari guild gate to make up for the lost colour pips in the mana base there, and cutting down to only 2 Memorial to Folly. I think basically everyone's now convinced that those 4 Memorial to Folly decks might have been overdoing it somewhat, and realistically we can fit 3 utility lands in the deck at the moment.
Equally, the decks that were running 0 or 1 were definitely in the wrong place.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. I would like to talk to Autumn about their list from the GP where they only ran 1, and sort of ask, do you now think you would go up to 2 or 3? There's also a little bit more of a smattering of different cards in the main board, in that we've got a Golgari Finebroker coming back in to the deck, and then realistically the only other one in the main board that's interesting is the Otherrealm Lich seeing play here, which interesting magic card. Pretty good, I think, against like Jeskai control. If you land it, you can just keep paying 4 life and having it become indestructible. So that seems pretty reasonable. Especially if you've already gained a bunch of life with, say, a Wildgrowth Walker or something. That's a pretty nice combo. And then in the sideboard, we've got, relatively normal things, apart from we do have that Tetsumok Primal Death that Helena was talking about last week. Interesting to see that tech actually come up. And then the last card that is very interesting to me, Runic Armasaur.
In sideboards or in the main?
In the sideboard here.
In the sideboards. We have seen it in a couple of sideboards, the top 8s that we've covered.
Okay.
Not very often, but it pops up very occasionally.
What is it really in there for, Simeon?
You're asking me?
Yeah. Kinda.
I'm not sure. I guess it's in, at the moment, it's in for Doom Whisperer.
Yeah, I guess. But that seems really narrow.
But if you think, if the Golgari decks are going to... I'm running Doom Whisperer so that I can go and find my finality. Which they are doing. This is a good answer to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's also got 5 toughness, which means it doesn't die to Lava Coil.
I was actually going to say, do we think it might actually be an include for, say, Boros aggro or Mono White aggro, where you get to lock down things like Adanto Vanguard and the Legion's Landing once it's flipped.
That's true. Yes, it does very good jobs against both those cards as well.
Yeah, so maybe something along those lines. Amusingly, I've just noticed that Wizards have got an error in the deck of the Boros aggro. The Tajik included is Blade of the Legion.
That would be an illegal deck.
That would be an illegal deck. So yeah. Other than that, yeah, I've just had a quick check through, and I couldn't see anything else particularly interesting other than 2 Immortal Sun in a Golgari mid-range list. Ryota Shimazaki. Ryota's list plays 2 Immortal Sun in the sideboard, and I'm wondering if that is a kind of gotcha card against the mirror. They're only playing 3 Planeswalkers in the main deck. I'm wondering if they just come out and you just go bang, Immortal Sun.
To be fair, the Celestian deck I'm running, I put Immortal Sun in against Golgari. I do not take out the Planeswalkers.
I mean, this is true. If one of them is on the battlefield, you're probably doing quite well.
Yeah, and you just then hold the other one.
Yeah, until they can deal with it, and then you go, well, here's my next threat. Yeah.
Or if you're like, well, my Planeswalker's already activated 3 times. I've got value out of it. I'm going to play this Immortal Sun and get even more value.
Yeah.
And get rid of one, my Planeswalker comes back.
Yeah. So, no, interesting. The Immortal Sun in a Golgari list. I don't think I hate it, but at the same time, I haven't tested it yet. So
I don't think I love it when you're the Golgari deck as well.
Just because we rely so heavily on our Planeswalker activations to actually win the game. Yeah. No, I can see that. I did get to ultimate Vivian Reed in the mirror the other night with 2 Carnage Tyrants on the battlefield. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff.
I think your opponent concedes at that point.
Actually, they didn't. They battled on for another couple of turns before I finally managed to kill them because they had 2 Carnage Tyrants of their own.
But yours are now 9 7s and indestructible.
9 8s and indestructible.
9 8s and indestructible.
Yes, with vigilance and double trample.
I mean, just.
Yeah, no. The
Just
game was over. I think they were playing out for their arena challenges of the day.
Okay, yeah, that is true. On arena, you do that.
Yeah. Other than that, I think that's all the news from the GP. Simeon.
Yes. Shall I go onto the RPTQ provider for our last RPTQ? Be the RPTQ for for GP London? No, for PT London.
Yep.
That will happen at the same time as Magic Fest London.
Yep.
And the provider will be Axion now, which is great news, I think, for the UK community. It should be a really great send-off for the PPTQ stroke RPTQ scene. I am desperately hoping to spike one of the final PPTQs I get to play.
Yes. Well, there will be last chance trials on the day of, and obviously if you're in the southeast area, you could come down to...
Yeah, I could. It's not exactly, though, going to be at Axion. It's not going to be in Amersham.
Yes, it won't actually be at Axion now in Amersham. It will be in Stansted at the Radisson Blu. We will be having a last chance to qualify. There will be last chance qualifiers in Standard on Saturday the 9th of... Simeon, give me a month here. February, there we go. On Saturday the 9th of February. And alongside there will actually be a team trio constructed, Standard, Legacy and Modern. So if you're more interested in playing that, or if you're already qualified for the RPTQ, you could head down and play that. And then, yes, on the Sunday, there is the RPTQ. It will be the standard format based on Ravnica Allegiance. And there'll also be a Mega Modern at the same time. So if you are not qualified, if you like your Modern, head on down for the Mega Modern as well, which seems like a nice weekend. I'm probably going to go down, scrub out of the last chance qualifier, and then maybe play a Mega Modern.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Seems like a nice weekend. Yes.
So the one last piece of news is a piece of news that hasn't happened yet at the point where we're recording this, but possibly will have happened by the time you're listening to it. On Thursday, the 6th of December, there's meant to be a big announcement from Wizards coming regarding organised play and qualifications for Pro Tour. What are we expecting to be in there, Jack? We could sound very silly when people listen to this and know what the actual answer is, but what are we expecting?
Yeah, so obviously you future people with your hoverboards and your virtual interfaces, you guys might already know just how silly we're being here. But my thinking is we're going to be talking about how stores will get to run events, how they will be allowed to organise. And I personally think what we're going to see is and over what periods as well, and that sort of thing, you know, because obviously we're going to this 6 PT system. We can't have the current system. What I think we're going to have is, over the course of the year, your stores will get to run maybe 2 events, like your bigger stores, so the ones that are WPNs, larger end. You know, I'm thinking of places like Fanboy 3, I'm thinking about, you know, Axion and Darksphere. Those kind of shops will get to run their big events. Who held the RPTQ this weekend?
It was Geek Retreat.
Geek Retreat, yeah. Geek Retreat, they've got multiple stores that I think are high-end WPN. So I think they'll all get to do like 2 a year over the course of the entire year, and it will just be, you'll feed into not the next PT but the PT after. And what I think we're going to be seeing is something along the lines of, you can pick any format, but your 2 formats can't be the same. So I think that's sort of what we're going to see. I think Wizards is going to let stores off the chain and say, there's not standard season, modern season, and every season you have sealed available. It's, you can pick whatever formats you want, but you can't just go, okay, well, we know everyone loves modern, so we're just going to pick 2 modern ones, you know? I think that might be something that goes on, and again, I think it will be very similar to the PTQ system from previous years, where there's a big event. It's estimated to be like 90 players, and then the top 4 will make it to the Pro Tour.
No,
you don't think?
The PTQ system was the top 1 made it to the Pro Tour.
Jeez,
you won a PTQ.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe then it'll be closer to the current RPTQ system where the top 2 make it.
At the moment, so from England, from the UK even, we qualify 4 people a season.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can't. I don't see if they want reduced sizes of, or to be more accurate, 12 people a year. No, 4, 8, 12. I can do maths. 16 people a year.
Yes.
They want reduced sizes of PTs, and so Britain isn't going to qualify more than 16 people over those. I imagine it will still be 16 people, but it'll be over the 6 Pro Tours, not over the 4.
Okay.
And so it's got to work. So you can't, if you're qualifying 4 people, essentially you can only have an RPTQ level event. So it has to be 1 person, and it means we'll have 16 Premier events over the course of a year.
Okay. So you think we're going to go to 16 Premier events, and that's it
throughout England and Scotland and Wales
and Ireland,
possibly Ireland. Ireland might be treated separately.
That's possible. Yeah. No, you could very well be right. That would be kind of
eight stores with 2 events each.
Yeah, something like that, maybe. Jeez. They did also mention, however, that they were considering something along the lines of, multi-event style things where you...
Yes, so there might, on top of that, be an Action Now series, or the Madhouse series that happened just before the PPTQs kicked in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which will allow the winner to qualify for the Pro Tour, perhaps. Or even a top 4 to qualify in some way. That might be a separate thing. I'm hoping that also happens, because that way you get lots of Premier events, but not lots of people qualifying for the Pro Tour.
Yes, that would actually be probably a little bit better, as you say. You end up with more events that you get to play, but still get the same number of people qualify.
And then on top of that, presumably they want local stores to be running by winner boxes and things that actually have their players turn up to.
Yeah. So the other way that you could do it is all of the you sort of do the PPTQ system, but by a different name. What we have is something along the lines of a standard showdown type event that, say, 7 stores, or 8 stores rather, have, and the winner of that gets to go and play another event at one of the stores nearby. So it's not quite the same as the RPTQ because you're not travelling quite as far, because these stores are all relatively local. So you'd have one in, say, the entirety of the Northeast. You've got these 8 stores are chosen, and they're all running one event, and the winner gets to go and just play an 8-person event in a couple of weeks' time, as opposed to an RPTQ, which is, it's in 4 months, and your PPTQ that was in, Cornwall has qualified you for an RPTQ in Glasgow. That might be another way of doing it, but that'll be interesting to see. The other point that I've heard a lot of, I've heard a little bit of speculation. I think you've heard more speculation than me, is the idea that we might be getting an announcement about how Arena is likely to feed into the PT.
Yes, that is what I've sort of heard coming off other podcasts I listen to, is they're expecting an esports announcement to be this announcement on Thursday, and therefore it's got very linked to Arena. They think it's going to be some big news about how Arena will have some Premier event types on it. I was thinking about this earlier today. I was thinking they then have to allow draws in Premier events, because they'll have to set an overall time for a round.
Of course.
And it will have to work in the same way as Paper Magic. If the time runs out, there'll be some extra turns, and then it's a draw.
Yeah.
Because there's not the same type of clock as there is on Magic Online.
No, exactly. On Magic Online, you've got the chess clock, and it stops there ever being a draw.
Yeah,
without including weird game states where both people die at the same time.
Yes, but even then, it's still not a draw. You just play an extra game.
Yeah.
An extra game. whilst most games on Arena go really quickly and you can play 6-7 matches in half an hour. I have had the odd match where one game has taken 50 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because we've gone nuts between both of us. So it will have to allow for 1-0 wins, and it will have to allow for draws if that's what's going to happen with Arena.
Yep, absolutely. So that'll be interesting to see how they might go about implementing that. And I mean, let's not forget, Arena is still in beta technically.
Yes.
So there's a lot of features that still aren't really implemented, and while we now do have direct challenge, there's still no tournament system per se as the online system.
It needs a tournament system in there. So it could be their announcement is we are at some point going to have this on Arena.
Yes.
And for the moment, this is what's happening with stores.
Yeah. But as you said to me before the show, Simeon, we need some guidance as to what on earth we're doing in all of 8 weeks, slightly less.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of going, do I want to go to European GPs?
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm going to get to play some high-end Magic, or is there going to be enough to keep me happy locally? I mean, I don't go to 2 events every weekend.
Yeah.
So if there's 1 event a month, as long as it's at least at that level where I can go to and it'll be a high multiplier Planeswalker points, I think that's probably enough for me. Those people like our patrons who are literally at 2 events a weekend, that is not going to be enough.
No, that's not enough Magic. Need more Magic.
Unless it's that they go to their store and play their store 3 weeks and then 1 week they go somewhere else. Are they going to be happy doing that? I'm not sure about the answer to that question.
Yeah, exactly. So, we will have to wait and see. As I say, the chances are, listening to this, you guys have already had the announcement and you already know exactly what's going to happen. But we do not. So yeah, this is all speculation for us, and we will get to find out what's going on Thursday.
So, end of the speculation.
Yeah.
Shall we go into things we do know about, things that have happened already?
That seems pretty good. Why don't we talk about some PPTQ results?
So the first set of results we have are actually from last week. They're from Elite Gaming. It was an 18-player event on the 25th of November. And it was won by Laurie playing Is It Phoenix? Or, as he called it, Not Dredge. Those of you who follow Laurie on Twitter will know that he had a conversation with Saffron Olive because he ran Saffron Olive's Dredge deck at a PPTQ and top-8'd with it. But no, this wasn't. This was Is It Phoenix instead.
That was actually the PPTQ that John Partridge won.
It was, yes.
And when we had him on, John had managed to dodge this matchup. I don't know how that would have necessarily gone down, but yeah.
Runner-up was Mono Blue Tempo. And then in the semi-finals, we had Mono Red Frenzy and Jeskai Control. In the quarterfinals, another Jeskai Control, another Mono Blue Tempo, and then Boris Angels and Rainbow Lich.
Mm-hmm.
So, an interesting occasional appearance for Rainbow Lich there.
Yes, absolutely. I'm still not 100% certain on how to beat the deck, but at the same time, I think it does it to itself a lot, so...
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how you beat it. You let it lose to itself.
Fair enough.
What do you think of the Is It Phoenix deck running 4 Crackling Drake and 4 Electromancer, but no Enigma Drakes?
So this has actually become a lot more common. Apparently, our position on if it already costs 1 mana, you don't need the Electromancer, you could play a better threat, is not shared by a great deal of the Magic playing world, and most like GP and 5.0 lists I've seen have played this combination of creatures plus some combination of these spells. You know, Entrancing Melody can be in the main board, it can be in the sideboard. Mirari Conjecture, you can have 1 main, 1 side, or you can have 2 sideboard. That kind of thing is sort of where the fluctuations are coming from. Basically, every deck I've seen do well, however, has played at least 2 Niv Mizzet in the sideboard, so that's a thing to be considering as well. But yeah, I think the Electromancer just allowing you to do more powerful things if your opponent cannot kill it on the spot is definitely well worth the slight risk.
I've loved the addition of Entrancing Melody to this deck.
It's been really interesting to see, actually, yeah.
You're taking my threat.
Yeah.
That's not good for for my 3/1 when it attacks. I can keep it alive, but I can't stop it from going to you.
Exactly. And I think that was the reason the Entrancing Melody was a pickup for this deck. It was, it gets to take tokens for cheap, and occasionally it gets to just steal a really powerful creature that you couldn't deal with otherwise. But it does also give you the outs to late game go, well, I've flooded a little bit, but I will take your demon from you. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
I've actually been surprisingly impressed by the Mirari Conjecture in this deck as well. Like, I didn't think I was going to like it. Every time I've seen it go off, it's been really powerful to the point where I've started throwing away Vivian Reeds just to stop it.
Yeah. I have to say, I have really liked the way the sagas have worked overall as a card type. That there have been ones that were immediately powerful and were played. There were ones that had, like Mirari Conjecture, that have come in more slowly and are just sort of one-offs here and there, but which, when they're going off, are doing stupidly busted things.
Yeah. Exactly.
And there have been one or two that have never seen any play at all, and I really like that. I want them to come back. I think it was a great design.
Yes. Hopefully we will see more planes with much history and lore to be explored through sagas.
Or even if it's next time we go back to Dominaria, which will probably be within the next 18 months.
Yeah, fair enough.
What's our next PPTQ result track?
So our next PPTQ is from this past weekend, and it was at Patriot Games. So thank you very much to Patriot Games for sending us their lists. The top 8 were of the 21-player event. We had a winning mono white aggro list. Runner-up was another Is It Drake's list. In the semi-final slots, we had a Dimir Control and a Selesnya Tokens.
Go Selesnya.
Yes. 2 decks that we see occasionally, but are nowhere near like the most played decks in the meta. So it's really interesting to see them both getting an outing here. In the quarterfinal slots, we had a mono white aggro, a Golgari mid-range, a Jeskai Phoenix, and a Boros aggro. Simeon, what does a Jeskai Phoenix look like when it's at home?
What does a Jeskai Phoenix look like as opposed to a Jeskai Drake?
Yes.
So essentially, it's a Jeskai list that runs a Phoenix. I know that seems slightly, what's the word I'm looking for? Pedantic, maybe? Let me find the deck. So,
it's an Is It Phoenix deck. It's got some sideboarded white cards and 4 glacial fortresses.
Yes, so I can't really call it Is It Phoenix because it's not.
I mean, it is.
Except it's running Deafening Clarion, which I think makes a huge difference to how the deck runs post board.
I actually think I disagree. I think you can get very similar results out of Pyroclasm.
But it's not. But yeah, so. But there must be a reason why they've gone.
I take that back. The lifelink does make racing insane, I guess.
Oh god, with the
Crackling or Enigma Drakes, yeah.
We've had Jeskai control decks that run the Drakes, and this is the Jeskai control deck with the Phoenix put in it.
No, well, it's not though, is it? This is an Is It Drake deck.
It's a mash of the two, isn't it? It's a mash of Is It Phoenix or Is It Drake and some Jeskai control pieces. What
on earth is Response Resurgence?
Response Resurgence is.
I cannot remember which one that is. Okay.
It's the red-white hybrid, deal 5 damage, target attacker or blocker, or 3 red-white creatures you control gain first strike and vigilance, and then have another attack phase.
Okay, and I suppose that the white can get that to go off as well, the white in the main board, so that you effectively double turn and can kill your opponent in 1 turn.
I mean, I realise there's only minor, tiny little changes.
No, I tell you what, I will give you that one. Having now figured out what Response Resurgence does, and yeah, okay, maybe it is just Jeskai Phoenix, and that's perfectly reasonable. It is very similar to Is It Phoenix? Is It Drake?
It is. And Is It Drake and Is It Phoenix are also 2 decks, because I can't only call a deck Is It Phoenix if it's actually running the Phoenix.
Yeah.
And Is It Drake runs almost exactly the same spells with no Phoenix. I'd like to have done the same to Golgari.
Yes.
I'd like to have been able to split Golgari up into 2 or 3 different decks.
But the whole thing is such a mash.
it wasn't as obvious where those changes needed to be.
Okay, yeah. But yes, as I say, there's Selesnya tokens and Dimir control seeing play at Patriot Games was unusual. This Jeskai Phoenix list is a little bit of a mashup, but I don't think I wouldn't sideboard as if I was just playing is it Phoenix or is it Drakes. That's how I'd sideboard. Yeah, interesting. Simeon, where else was there a PPTQ?
We also have results from Robin's Hobby Cafe, which was also on the 1st of December. This time we don't have placings for all of the top 8 decks. We just know what the decks were in the top 8. So we had 2 Golgari mid-range decks, 2 Jeskai control decks, 2 Is It Phoenix decks, a Dimir control, and a Boris Angels popping its head up for the first time in a long time.
Absolutely. Nothing particularly untoward, as you say. The first time we've seen an actual Angels list in a good long while. But these lists look relatively normal.
Yeah, relatively straightforward. I'm sure if I went into detail with them, I could find the odd card that was an unusual thing. And the Dimir control obviously has slightly different things than we've seen everywhere. If there's any deck to talk about, it's that one.
Yeah, I mean, the Blood Operative and the 4 Fortbound Phantasms in the main board to work with your Doom Whisperer, I guess, mostly, is just...
And your one of disinformation campaign. It's the first time I've seen anyone running disinformation campaign, but only running one of them.
Yeah, that seems really very odd to me. And obviously you've got 4 Discovery and 4 Fort Erasure that at least gives you, and then the Sinister Sabotage and things that can give you...
get it back.
Yeah, some Surveil going on and that kind of thing. But only a one-off? That seems really interesting to me. The Immortal Sun in the main border is also...
An oddity, isn't it?
Little bit, but still.
I mean, it's not running any Planeswalkers. I guess that helps.
I'm sorry, what? It's got a Damping Sphere in the sideboard.
It does have a Damping Sphere in the sideboard.
So 2 problems I have with that. One, yes. I don't think there are any decks in the format that it particularly injures too badly. I mean, sort of the Is It Drake/Phoenix deck, I guess it does some harm to them, but it's a one-of. You're going to have trouble finding it without their deck having already done exactly what they wanted to do. And also, you are a control deck. You do not get to put your opponent under a great deal of pressure. Your early plays to actually pressure your opponent are Fortbound Phantasm if you can Surveil 5 times afterward, and 2 of Blood Operative with no other creatures in the sideboard to actually threaten your opponent. And yes, I have also seen the Unmoored Egos in the sideboard. I thought they were quite an interesting choice in week 1. By the midpoint of the format, however, I think that they're just not very good anymore. The week 1 point was that they could answer things when you didn't know what was going on. We know what's going on now.
Yeah, so you should have a planned answer for it, which is not an Unmoored Ego.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also a Mnemonic Betrayal. And for those of you who don't remember this card, don't worry. It's awful.
It's fine. I had to look it up because I'm like, what is this card?
This is 1 blue-black for a sorcery. It says exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards. You may cast those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast those spells. At the beginning of the next end step, if any of those cards remain exiled, return them to their owner's graveyard. Then exile Mnemonic Betrayal. So you're going to cast your opponent's spells again for them?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Sure, your opponent puts a bunch of lightning bolts in their bin, you can cast a bunch of lightning bolts, but at the same time, why?
Out of interest, if you have played that and you play another 2 spells, can you take a Phoenix out of that graveyard and play it?
No.
Oh, see, that's just... No, I don't know why it's there either.
No, that seems really interesting. All of the most powerful things will cost more mana. So are you trying to cast 5 spells off of it? Or are you trying to cast 1 big spell? Are you trying to pay 9 mana for a Carnage Tyrant you managed to kill that is for some reason still in the graveyard?
And do you have a huge amount of lands to play this stuff with?
Yeah, exactly.
You're only playing 23 lands.
Ugh, I hadn't even noticed that. No. A deck that goes up to Dream Eater. Ugh.
Yeah, so what we're really saying here here is a deck that goes up to Immortal Sun.
Yeah. 6 mana.
If you want to play a Dimir control deck, probably don't use this as your basis.
This one? Yeah.
Sorry to the pilot of the deck.
I have to say that if you
well done for making top 8.
Yeah, exactly. If you piloted this to the top 8, then well done. You are clearly a very good player, and you know your deck very well. But I want to understand why half the cards are in this deck, in the numbers they are. Just very, very odd. I do not believe in this deck whatsoever. Other than that, it's all relatively normal.
Yeah. So let's move on to our final top 8.
So our last top 8 was at Geek Retreat. Now, obviously, they were also running their RPTQ this weekend, the Modern RPTQ. We'll talk about Modern in a minute. The winner was a Golgari mid-range. The runner-up was a Golgari mid-range. In the semi-finals, we had a Golgari mid-range and an Izzet Drakes. In the quarters, we had a mono black control. We also had a Jeskai control and 2 mono red frenzy decks. So I guess the deck that we sort of want to look at is this chromatic black and see if it's what you were playing against a few weeks ago. And it looks very similar.
It's very similar, but it's not being anywhere near as greedy.
Yes. The only coloured spell in there is Niv Mizzet, Parun.
Yeah. Admittedly, that is lots of colours.
Yes. But the deck now has 4 Chromatic Lantern and 4 treasure maps, so you might actually get there.
In the side we have a Nezahal as well and a Sanguine Sacrament.
But the point is, those are like the Nezahal is good against control, and you will have time to find your things. So I had an Unmoored Ego in here as well.
Yes.
I guess that was the tech this weekend. Someone's playing some goofy combo deck. I'm going to Unmoored Ego. The problem is that the deck that I think of as the most goofiest and most off-the-wall thing that you're going to want to do that to runs a tutor that can go and get their cards back out of the exile pile in Rainbow Lich.
Yeah.
They run Mastermind's acquisition, so they can just go, I'm going to go and get a card from outside the game that includes the exile pile that you just Unmoored Ego all of my Lich's masteries into. So, thanks.
I guess you have to Unmoored Ego the way of getting it.
Yeah,
the Mastermind's acquisitions.
You have to go and get the Mastermind's acquisitions and hope that they haven't sideboarded just in a couple of copies because they've got so much stuff to take out against you.
One card I am happy to see is the Dreadshade.
Yes.
Because poor Dreadshade, all of the other 3 colour spells from Dominaria have seen play.
Yeah.
But no, Dreadshade, bad luck.
Well, I mean, it saw a little bit last season, but really nothing high level or competitive. Sorry, not last season, the season before. Not high level or competitive. So, whereas, as you say, all of the other 4 colours now have. I don't know, maybe next season will be Dreadshade season.
Maybe it'll be mono black coming to the fore next season.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, as always, if you'd like to read those deck lists, please do head over to our website, standardintelligence.uk. And thank you again very much to the stores for sending us their deck lists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elite Gaming, Patriot Games, Robin's Hobby Cafe, and Geek Retreat. Thank you all very much for sending us your lists. It is greatly appreciated. Right then.
Yes.
I believe you've got some numbers to discuss with us, yes, Simeon?
I have some numbers.
Excellent. Why don't we get into that then?
So, before I give you the numbers, Jack, tell me what you think of the format.
I think this is the best format we've played in at least 2 years.
And
I think that this is, you can play basically every deck that you would want to play, and as long as you have built the deck with a reasonable game plan, you will have some fairly reasonable games of Magic. And you won't be playing the same deck every freaking round as it has been over the last few seasons. You know, we're not seeing, I've got Teamer Energy or Mono Red next round because I know
there are 6 Teamer Energy
or I'm definitely playing Green Black Delirium or Blue White Flash next round because there's 20 of each of those in the room at the moment.
And I agree with you there that we have seen all of our meta breakdowns have seen a wide variety of decks being played, nothing overly dominant. At most, things were maybe 8 decks in a 30-player room.
Mm-hmm.
So 20% of the format, 25% perhaps. I think that though, and everyone has been saying that. Don't get me wrong, everyone has gone, this is amazing, the format's so diverse, you can play anything. And then I look at the results and go, nope, you should play Golgari mid-range. You should literally just play Golgari mid-range.
So do you want to...
You can perhaps play Jeskai Control. The reason I'm saying this, so we score our top 8, so it's 4 points for a win, 3 points for a runner-up, 2 points for each of the semi-finalists, 1 point for each of the quarter-finalist decks. And if we don't know where things placed, all 8 decks get a point. Mm-hmm. So over the course of the 20 full results we've got, plus the one very early on where we only had one deck from it, Golgari Midrange has 82 points. In second place is Jeskai Control with 42 points. So that's pretty much half. Mm. And in third place, Mono Red Frenzy has 25 points.
Mm. So half again, almost.
Yeah, so about a quarter of the Golgari point level. Golgari has only failed to top 8 2 of the events where we've got a full top 8 for.
Yeah.
Twice maybe one. No, twice it has scored 9 points overall. And an 8 points, and 1, 2, 3, 4 times it has scored 7 points. Bear in mind, for the whole of the rest of the decks, nothing's above 5 in any one event.
Yes, yeah.
So, yes, we are saying it's diverse, and we're playing diverse decks. But should we have been?
I mean, it seems very similar to a question we had when everyone was playing Team Energy, and it was the question became, actually, should we have all just not been playing mono red? We were all trying to do that thing. But this is even more insidious than that, because we keep looking at this metagame and going, it looks fine. Like, I'm not playing against the same deck every round. But at the top end of the room are the same decks each week.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing, don't get me wrong, there are 4 or 5 decks in almost every top 8 we look at. Mm. We haven't seen a top 8 that is dominated by 6 Golgari decks. But at the same time, we look at the list we've looked at today. So Elite Gaming is, okay, there was actually no Golgari there. That is an outlier.
Yeah.
Patriot Games, 1 quarter-finalist. Robin's Hobby Cafe, 2 of the top 8 decks. Geek Retreat, the winner, the runner-up, and a semi-finalist.
Yeah.
The GP, the winner, a semi-finalist, and 2 quarter-finalists.
Yeah.
In a meta that's going to be very, very different to a UK meta.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a bit comparing it with the Rivals of Ixalan format of Mono Red.
Yeah.
So this is not the Black Red format. This was the format before that. Mono Red over those top 8s had 70 points. The next highest was Mardu Vehicles with 38. And then Scrap Heap Red with 28.
So you're saying that we could consider this season actually, as far as the dominance of the top 8 of the top tables, Golgari mid-range has been as bad, if not worse, than Mono Red 2 seasons ago.
Yes.
Okay, ouch. That's concerning.
But the weird thing is, it hasn't felt like that.
No, absolutely not. Is this... I was about to say, is this a factor of, British players, UK players enjoying just playing this style of deck? But as you say, the rooms haven't been filled with it. It's not like it's putting up these numbers because it's everywhere. It is putting up these numbers because it's just very good at getting these consistent results.
Yeah, and it's I guess it's a 52-53% deck. And if 20% of the room run a 53% deck over 5 rounds...
Yeah.
One of them makes top 8, almost without question.
Yeah.
Just by the maths.
Yeah. I mean, rock deck's going to rock,
And maybe we also are happy about the format because of the top 3 decks are mid-range, control, aggro.
Yes. There's a nice trifecta there.
And whichever of those 3 you like to play in standard, you felt you've got a chance in playing it.
I think you do have a chance in playing any of those 3 decks. And Is It Drake's as well?
Yeah, now Is It Drake's... Well, Is It, of course, is a weird, problematic deck for exactly the reasons we just talked about.
Yes.
When we were talking about Is It. In that, how many decks do I want to consider to be Is It Drake's? Mm-hmm. Between Is It Phoenix, Is It Control, Is It Drake's, and Jeskai Phoenix. Let me count up those points. 28, 29, 34 points. So that would be the third place deck if they all got mashed together as one Is It.
Yeah, amalgam.
Amalgam. So as you say, that's also a possible those are the 4 main decks of the format, but Golgari midrange still takes more points than the top next best 2 put together. Why am I not playing Golgari?
Because you don't own the cards.
Yeah, why did I not just get the cards?
I do not actually know, Simeon.
Because to be fair, I watched you playing it on the stream earlier this week. And I was like, this looks so fun.
Yeah.
There's so many decision points to make, and there's so much like, yeah, I'm seeming behind, but oh yeah, I can get this and that gets these back, and then oh yeah, I'm back in it again and I win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my preferred style of playing Magic because there's a ton of little decisions that over the course of a long game really start adding up. And as you say, occasionally you just draw the absolute bomb card that you need at the exact right moment and you just get to... I mean, I had an opponent do it to me earlier tonight. I played like an hour-long match and I maneuvered so that their Carnage Tyrants no longer mattered. Like, I had managed to kill them and end up with my Carnage Tyrant on the battlefield. I had, spent Assassin's Trophies to take out Memorial to Follies while there was nothing worth getting back in the graveyard or while they were tapped out or something like that, and like played this really intricate long game, and then my opponent just went, fine, I'll get back 2 Carnage Tyrants, you'll go. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm dead now.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing from the other side that felt insanely good as much as it felt awful from my side. So yeah, there's a ton of play with the deck. It's always got the ability to come back into a game like up until really late, and it's got to be super duper dead to not be able to come back into it. And yeah, I think that might be why we're seeing it do so well. It's got a lot of these lines, and because it's got very good sideboard options at the moment.
Yeah.
Black sideboard options are very good. I mean, this has been true in Standard for a long time now. Black has always had the best sideboard options. But the fact is, Green is getting a bunch of really good ones as well. I actually tweeted out earlier this week talking about the fact that the Death Gorge Scavenger might be one of the best cards in the deck, and we should probably be trying to fit it into the main board. It's that good.
That did so much work for you on stream.
Oh,
it really did.
Yeah. And then you've got things like Thrashing Brontodon. Or you could play Reclamation Sage instead. This was actually something that Brad Nelson was talking about. You should play Reclamation Sage over Thrashing Brontodon and that kind of thing. So, and then obviously we've got a bunch of really good colourless answers at the moment that you can put in if you really have to. I'm thinking about things like Sorcerer's Spyglass here. And so, yeah, I think that's what's working in its favour. It's always got play, and as you say, it's a 53 to 55% deck in basically every matchup. And that means that as long as you know your deck and you know your opponent's deck, you're in a really good spot. So, yeah. But these numbers are kind of surprising to me. Like,
how about if we look the next tier down? So below those 4 decks, we've got Mono White Aggro, which was most of its numbers come post PTGRN, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
So that's been a reasonable deck in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
We've got Mono Blue Tempo, although only because it's won 3 events. It has no, actually no, it's not true. It hasn't won all 3. It's got 2 first places and then a runner-up and a quarterfinal in the same event.
Right.
But so basically 3 events where it scores 4 points in each and no score points anywhere else.
Yes.
Then we have Celestial Tokens,
yeah.
Which 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 of its 11 points have come post the PT.
Yep. Boros Angels had most of its points before the PT.
Yes.
It's now just fallen off the face of the earth, it seems.
And outside of that, there's nothing.
But it's in
worth
a
mentioning.
Similar. Yeah, and yeah, as you say, apart from that, it's all only a couple of appearances here and there.
And generally for a point, so a quarterfinals pace for most of them rather than a win. Oddities like the 4-colour control deck that John ran before he came onto the podcast and talked to us about it.
Yeah.
And a Jeskai Angels deck early on that won. But mostly these other decks they just pop up into a top 8 but don't hit that top 8 hard.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Which is where Mono Blue has been a bit unusual in that it hits a top 8, it hits it hard.
Yes, yeah. If you can make it to the top 8, you do surprisingly well. But you can't always make it there. Seems to be Mono Blue's thing.
So yeah, I found it funny that the perception of this format is very different to where our figures suggest it is.
Yeah. So again, as you say, where if you really want to do well in these top 8s, where the numbers say you should be, is mostly just Golgari mid-range, but at the same time, Jeskai Control, and then to a far lesser extent, Mono Red Frenzy are viable, and then a incarnation of an Izzet deck that you enjoy playing is also probably a reasonable space to be in. But again, these are just the numbers based on these top 8s, and if you, as we were talking about with both John and Helena, if you understand the format and you understand your deck and you know what every card is doing, you've got a reasonably good shot of doing well.
Oh yeah, and equally, if you want to tune your deck against any particular part of the metagame, tune it against Golgari.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because whilst, yes, I'm going, I really should have built that deck and I should be playing it, I actually think my Selesnya mid-range deck has good game against Golgari, on the whole.
I'd dispute that, but if you feel it's true, then
I felt it's true, and then I've lost to Golgari a number of times. I think in part it depends on how Golgari build their deck, and they're not generally they're not trying to fight against me. I'm not their problematic matchup because they don't meet me very often.
No,
they're trying to fight
like
against.
You get swept up in a lot of accidental hate. Wild Growth Walker is very good against you. Golden Demise and Ritual of Soot is very good against you, and all Golgari mid-range decks are playing at least one, if not both of those cards. So, and those are not in there for you. Absolutely, they're not.
They're in there for the mono red deck.
They're in there for mono red
and the mono white. I feel like I'm back from the better than mono red or mono white.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Generally, thanks to March.
Yes. March is a very powerful magic card.
And so, although I'm not going to be taking Golgari to Liverpool with me, if I had the cards and I had time to practice with the deck, then I probably should be.
That's probably fair. That is probably quite fair.
Obviously, not to play the modern event, because that would be very silly.
Yes, at that point, you get destroyed by Tron.
Indeed.
Speaking of modern, now that we've spoken about the statistics and what they mean, and I will be attempting to put that graph up on the website, so if you want to go and check out Simeon's findings, do head over to standardintelligence.uk. With that, should we go and have a little look at what modern might be doing at the moment, given that we've got some regional Pro Tour qualifier results?
Yes, let's do that.
So we've got some results from Geek Retreat based on the Regional Pro Tour qualifier from this past weekend. Obviously it was modern, but seeing as GP Liverpool is coming up and that's a team modern event, I think it's worth having a little look into. The decklets themselves I don't think particularly have anything in them that we wouldn't expect out of the individual decks. I don't think there's any massive innovation in the decks themselves. It's just interesting to note what we're actually seeing as we did last week with the results from Harlequins Preston. So the top 4 who all qualified for the PT, congratulations there. There was a Bant Spirits deck, a Humans deck, Mono Green Tron, and Blue White Control. The quarter-finalists, such as it were made up by Blue Green Infect, Bant Spirits, Humans, and Blue White Control. So 2 Bant Spirits, 2 Humans, 2 Blue White Control, and then Infect and Tron. Actually quite interesting. This is a very fair top 8. This is mostly just fair decks. Bant Spirits and Humans and Blue White Control are not attempting to break the game in any way. Infect is, I think, a very fair deck, even if it is sort of like a combo deck, because it has to put those resources onto the battlefield in a way that doesn't necessarily cheat them out. I think I would class it as a fair deck, but it does rather prey on this top 8's lack of removal. And then obviously we've got Tron, who is probably out of this smattering of 8 the least fair, and yet at the same time it's still just
fairly
doing
fair.
Tron things. It's, for modern, I'm going to count that as fair. It's not putting a Gristlebrand onto the battlefield on turn 2. So, yeah, this is really surprising to me that the unfair decks didn't do as well as they kind of normally do.
The surprise to me is seeing 2 humans decks in the top 8. I thought that had
considering
fallen away from the meta.
It really has, actually. So there's actually some interesting conversation to be had about that. One of the decks is playing Mayor of Avabrook. That's back in the list. That's a lord to try and make your team a bit beefier. That means that it is a better matchup against Banned Spirits, because obviously Banned Spirits gets to sort of dictate the pace of combat, but if your creatures are just bigger than theirs, you will kill them faster.
That's generally how it works.
Is normally what's going to happen. The other things going on here are in both lists, in both humans lists, we're actually seeing Kessig Malcontents return to the fold. This is a human that when it enters the battlefield domes your opponent for the number of humans on the battlefield. So, probably quite a lot by turn 6-ish. Probably even quite a lot by turn 4, to be perfectly honest. Other than that, there's one Tajik Legion's Edge in one of the lists, which I thought was quite interesting to see, and I think I quite like it. It might not get to activate its ability, it's for red-white ability very often, because obviously we're playing a lot of Uncharted Territory, Unclaimed Territory, Ancient Ziggurat and Cavern of Souls. And we've got, it can literally never do it. There's no red source in this deck. Okay, it can never activate its ability. So it's never, doing anything clever in combat against, say, Banned Spirits. But it's still got Mentor and it's still got Haste. So it's not something to be discounted, I would think. That I will be very interested to see if that becomes more widely adopted. As I say, the Mayor of Avabrook has been talked about by people on the SCG tour for a little while now. The sideboards are kind of as expected. Whirler Rogues are seeing a lot more play, it has to be said, as well as Anafenza the Foremost, if you remember that card from
Khans.
PTK. Yeah, that's a way of occasionally dealing with some graveyards decks. Like, it deals with Dredge, but there are other graveyard nonsense decks.
But Dredge is the current big.
Dredge is the big one. It's picked up a lot of stuff from guilds, and there's an upswing in Phoenix decks as well. Like, there's a lot of people trying to break Phoenix in Modern, so it will deal with those decks as well. It deals with
both of those, so it's worth a one-off in your sideboard for that.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the other decks go, I think relatively consistent with what we'd expect at the moment. Dramoka's Command actually making its way back into Banned Spirits, both here and on the SCG, so expect that in the near future. It's one of in the sideboard.
Do you think these are the sorts of decks people are going to be running when they've got to run unified Modern decks?
I think the format is broad enough that you're going to have to be ready for literally everything.
As usual with Modern.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's weird. Unified Modern doesn't actually place as much of a problem on a lot of decks as you might imagine. The problem a couple of years ago would have obviously been the mana bases. Only a certain number of you could have the colours of shock and fetch lands that you want. But now we're playing a lot of decks like Banned Spirits, like humans, that play all these lands that no one else wants to play, these creature-based lands. And you've also got Tron that plays, Tron things.
Tron lands.
Yeah, so it doesn't care about any fetch lands. You've got a bunch of artifact decks running around that mostly don't care about the mana base that it's using, because no one else wants them. There's some crossover if someone wants to play KCI and another one wants to play like Affinity Tron. Sorry, not Affinity.
Yeah.
Hardened Scales or something like that. There might be some crossover in the lands there, but realistically, there's not even very much. So, yeah, I think despite what would have been a couple of years ago a slightly trickier event of being like, the Tron and Affinity players would have been in great demand because they can go in any team. Now I think things like the band spirits, the humans, are doing the same thing. Their mana base doesn't impinge on anyone else's, so you just
frees up the other two decks to do what they want to do.
Exactly. So very, very interesting how the meta shifted in like a year and a half ish.
Yeah.
I think that's basically all I wanted to talk about as far as Modern is concerned. Looking forward to GP Liverpool.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at what's coming up in our events then.
Yes. So this weekend, obviously, there is Grand Prix Liverpool. If you are there, Simeon will be there. Go and say hi.
I'll be playing standard side events all weekend. I will be on Saturday and Sunday in my standard intelligence top. Do feel free to come and say hello.
Yes. Standard intelligence, blue top with his Twitter name on the back in big orange letters, so you can't miss him. The weekend after is actually the weekend of the World Magic Cup. So that'll be really interesting to watch.
Well, that'll be unified standard. Much more interesting.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in that one. Obviously, we've got our teams are all sorted. We've already announced who's on all of those. So good luck to those folks.
Yeah, good luck everyone.
Hopefully, we'll see some of the UK teams doing really well this year. But if you are not going to the World Magic Cup, as I imagine most people are not, you could play PPTQs at Chase Games in Cannock, Travelling Man in Leeds, Murphy's Vault CCGs in Edinburgh on Saturday the 15th, and on Sunday the 16th you can play at Yards Games in Arbroath. Then there's a bit of a gap because Christmas happens.
Yeah.
There is one more PPTQ this year. It's Atomic Comics and Games in Yeovil, and that is on the 29th of December. Other than that, there's this 5 PPTQs, and that is it until January. But then on the weekend of, the 5th, 6th of January, we see like 20 or something insane.
Yeah, there's a load on that weekend. Before we get into Ravnica Allegiance.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be the weekend before pre-release, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah. So that should be good. Should be fun. And looking forward to Ravnica Allegiance. So Simeon, you've already basically answered this. What are you planning on playing this weekend at GP Liverpool?
I am playing the Selesnya mid-range deck, but I feel I should be playing Golgari mid-range.
I feel you should be playing Golgari mid-range as well, and I will be playing Golgari. Not anywhere specific, probably just online, as I am not able to go to any events this weekend because I'm not at GP Liverpool, basically. Unfortunately, I can't make it. As I've said before, if you'd like to look at any of the decks that we've spoken about this week, any of the results Simeon has spoken about in regards to the entirety of the season, and indeed any of the deck lists from the last year or our podcast from the last year, do head over to standardintelligence.uk. If you'd like to talk to either myself or Simeon, probably the best place is on Twitter. I am at JackPatton42. Simeon, you are?
I am at SimeonBMTG.
If you'd like to talk to us about anything longer form, do email standardpattern@gmail.com. Couple of new things. Our YouTube is doing things. The podcast for last week actually went up on YouTube on Thursday night. This week I am hoping to do the same, so barring any mishaps, this will also be going up on YouTube with maybe some nice pop-up graphics of deck lists and magic cards that are interesting to look at. Maybe not. We'll see how the editing process goes. There are also some more videos of me playing things like Golgari Midrange from my stream. I have been streaming again. I am JackPatton_MTG on Twitch, so if you want to come over and join me. I'm not going to be streaming for the rest of this week, but come Monday I will be back to streaming in the evenings.
Excellent news.
Yes. Finally, we'd also like to again thank our Patreons. You guys have been amazing, and I think part of the reason this year has gone so well is because we've had patrons supporting us. So
yeah, agree
thank
entirely.
you very much. If you would like to find out more about how to support us, and indeed how to get in on that January giveaway that will be drawn on the 8th of January, please do head over to patreon.com/SIcast. And I think with that, it's time to say thank you all very much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye.